I want to welcome everybody out to our open house today. My name is Kevin Stevens. I'm the lead grower here at Plant Delights Nursery at Juniper Level Botanic Garden. And we're going to be going over a little bit about bogs and bog gardening, as well as what it really consists of. A bog is a wetland that's going to be highly acidic, and it's going to be saturated with peat moss and other decaying organic material, such as this. This is a peat and a pine bark mix, which is going to be similar to what you're going to find in a bog. It's an essential ecosystem as it has a lot of habitat for different plants, mosses, carnivorous plants, heather, and stuff like that. So it's more of a diverse atmosphere, being that it's very low in oxygen. And normally we'll not find any fish there, being that it's so low in oxygen. It's going to be more of a stagnant water. It's not going to have any rivers flowing into it or subterranean water moving through it. That's what makes it a bog more so than anything else, is the containment and the peat that'll slowly decomposition to the bottom, and you'll have bogs with many meters of peat deep. And they're all going to be more or less floating on top of the water. It's going to be completely saturated. Things like sphagnum moss are one of the biggest things in a bog situation and system. And what we're really going to do is we're going to walk around the property, and I'm going to try to show you what really is classified as a bog now that we have a little bit of understanding, and some other things that are more such as water features. I have a lot of people who ask us, I have a wet spot right here. That's not going to be a bog. That's going to be the furthest thing probably from a bog, because most likely it's going to be very high in nutrition, where a bog is very, very low in nutrition. So we're going to start our tour right over here. So we have different species of plants and everything else that adapt themselves to acidic, very anaerobic conditions. So certain things can definitely live in an area that's going to be a lot more wet. But once again, the first thing we're going to notice is, per definition, that's just a lot of sand. So that really doesn't have that high level of peat. Peat is really going to be one of the biggest things in a bog system. Now, a lot of things like pitcher plants and stuff will grow in this environment. We do have a liner inside, and then it's filled in on top. But one thing we do have is our gutter system is right behind us. So a lot of that minerals are washing right into this area. So this is going to be a lot higher in mineral content. Therefore, things such as Venus flytraps and sundews and some other carnivorous plants, they're more like an annual here. They will maybe last a year, but they're not really going to come back year over year. It's just really not the right environment for them. So there are a lot of other things such as pitchers and our Texas bog buttons and stuff that will adapt to more of an environment that's going to be a little bit hot, anaerobic, a little bit acidic, but a lot more compact. And the biggest thing with this is the compaction. So if you're looking at doing something like this at home, you want to use a lot more peat. And if you do use sand, you want it to be by weight, not actual volume. So a pound of sand is going to be maybe this big, and a pound of peat could be this big. But you don't want to go at a 1-to-1 volume ratio, or you're going to end up with something that's going to be very heavy and compacting like this. So we do have a water system underneath here that exits, overflows this way. And I know somebody was looking at doing something like this at home. I would recommend that I'm not sure why that stuck, but that cap actually is how we can add water to it, as well as be able to check the water levels. So I recommend having something like that so you can kind of gauge how deep your water is. Most of the time you should never need to really add water to an outdoor feature like this. Irrigation is not really what you want, but you want the rainwater. And the rain should be able to fill up a space like this. It'll definitely wane and wax throughout the season. That's one thing that I've noticed that the plants really like. They don't have to stay saturated and wet the whole time. It's kind of a misconception from what I've seen, whereas they actually want to dry down a little bit and then become wet. They don't really want to be wet on top like an aquatic plant. They just want that root system to remain wet. So with that in mind, we're going to go check out another feature over here. Oh, yes, sir.
This recent drought that we just went through, just got some rain recently, but had that long drought. But did y'all water this during that at all? Or?
No, I don't water it in my containers either. I just let them actually dry almost all the way down. Yep. It seems like a lot of times when I got here, we had a lot of our pitcher plants and fly traps in standing water, and they got what was called lazy roots. And they actually weren't growing on the top because the roots were just sitting in submerged water the entire time. And that's really more of an aquatic plant. A bog plant really wants to be just moist at that level, but not saturated or sitting.
Thank you. About half dip.
So as you can see here, this is going to be more typical of what a bog would be, where we got a high concentration of actual peat moss. And it's nice and moist. With the exception of we just got a little bit of puddling. There is a system that runs water into here. The challenge that we still have is there's a lot of nutrition that's coming in from both sides. So once again, it's going to be a lot more void of nutrition to have that slow decomposition and that more acidic pH to the actual soil. So things like that are still going to work in here, as in pitcher plants and stuff like that, but it still is not going to be a place that's going to be congruent for certain species to actually survive, such as fly traps and sundews. That's kind of where I start looking at what is a healthy bog. You're going to actually have both of those species living more often than not. And in this area, with a high mineral content coming in, they will not want to be here. So it's definitely closer to a bog, being that we have a lot of peat down here. It is definitely at the moisture level that we would want it at in most areas, but it still doesn't quite categorize everything that we're kind of looking for.
So if you wouldn't call this exactly a bog, what would you call this?
The opposite is a fen, F-E-N. And that's going to be basically an area that's going to be more or less with water flowing into it from a river, an underground system, something like that. It's going to have a lot more nutrient-rich soil and everything from that runoff. And then that's basically also going to be a system that usually isn't encapsulated. It's going to be...
Is not.
Is not, yes. Okay. It's going to be something that kind of has water flowing through it. So as you can see with the water flowing through it, and of course our irrigation, it categorizes more towards that, being that it has a high level of still nutrient enrichment coming into it.
And the other one would be called the same?
Very similar, yes, okay. Because you're still dealing with it. Now the difference with that one is it is encapsulated, okay. But technically speaking, the soil and media are not really where we would want it to be to have enough peat in it at all. Okay. It really needs to be more of a peat-rich environment. All bogs are basically going to be formed with peat.
When you say acidic for a bog, can you give me an actual?
Sure, about 3.2 to 3.5. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And that's the other thing where a lot of plants are not going to want to adapt to that environment. The things here are going to be a little bit more nutrient rich, so once you get a lot of that nutrients, you're going to raise that pH a lot more. It's the slow decomposition in the peat and the lack of oxygen that really drive that pH down. Okay.
Now, I might be jumping the gun, but we'll
sure.
Quick what about salinity? I own 8.5 acres. It's right on a saltwater. It's brackish.
Brackish water.
It doesn't. So the brackish river is probably about from here to where that tree line is over there, from where what I would call a bog, but maybe not. And I get a lot of ferns and all grow naturally. But I don't know what the salinity is. So is there a problem with salinity in it?
Most bogs are going to be very void that way, very low in salinity. because you're really looking at almost a wave having to push up and over in it more than anything else. You're dealing with a lot of rainwater only.
Okay.
So maybe if there's a situation where you're really close to the coast and some of that salt's being moved into the air and then deposited, that would be something, but it would be a very low, micron, low parts per million.
Okay.
So what we have here, once again, is more of an actual fen, where I have a lot of nutrients that are running down. As you can see in the river behind us, there's a lot of organic material, but there's also going to be a lot of more mineral dense water and material feeding into this. We do have a lot of peat, which is very consistent for a bog setting. A lot of the plants, such as some of the larger ferns, are pitcher plants and will grow in this area with other things that you can see are a lot more aquatic. So they definitely will work together in a situation like this. Certain plants just will not. So there's plants that are going to need that really, really low acid level like we've been talking about, and a lot of these plants can tolerate a little bit higher. But as you can see, it's a lot more than just running water or a wet area. We're looking for that consistency that really defines what a bog is. So as beautiful as the flowers are with a lot of stuff, some of these would never be able to grow in an actual bog area. This is going to need way too much pH and nutrition. So you could put something together very similarly where you can have some companion planting together, and there's nothing wrong with that idea, but once again, not by definition really is typical of a bog. And with all that being said, now let's go actually look at the bog. Okay. And this is going to be as traditional as we have of what a really bog consists of, with all of the characteristics that we've been talking about all put together. Once again, there's a raised boundary going around the entire garden, so the water's actually going to pool and run off to the sides. Only rainwater is coming down on top of it. Unless I have some kind of an ocean flood that hits us from here, from Wilmington, we should be good with only rainwater touching it.
There's an ocean flood up here. It's all a moot point anyway.
You're right. So we got a barrier where the water is going to really go around it. As you can see, where the channel has been almost carved and cut into everything. When they first did it, they went ahead and kind of did a very similar thing where it's just all this sand. And a lot of times people think that that's going to be very similar to what we needed. So instead of digging it out, we came up with more of a raised bed system for what we have planted here. This consists of peat moss and sand. And the reason that we use sand in this is to help hold that peat moss down and stop erosion. Because everybody was thinking that we're going to have massive amounts of erosion with the peat just sitting in here. So by adding the sand, it helps add that weight to everything. So it worked out really well for what we're needing. So things like that, as you can see, our sundews, our carnivorous plants here, have all come back year over year, whereas in other areas they're not going to have that. So environmentally, we're sitting in a very pH environment for them, probably, like I said, around 3.2 to 3.5. Very nutrient deficient as well, and that's what they're really going to thrive off of in here. So you guys are more than welcome to come and walk around down here. We have some other things that are just finally starting to come up that I was happy to see. Some of our fly traps are actually starting to come up year over year. And considering we are in North Carolina and they're really just from our area, it's really good to have them growing here finally naturally, more so in the botanical garden. So there is a few things that might not overwinter, but that's just about anywhere where it comes down to it. There's a lot of things such as the grasses that can easily be planted in. I come to find irises really like a low acidic environment as well. I planted irises with a lot of my containers that are just all peat and pine bark, and they thrive in it. I would, over at our sales area, I have a large bog container that's made up. You guys should go check it out because it's all in full bloom right now. The irises on top of the other bog plants just really has a nice contrast to it. So there's other things like liatris, I come to find out, works really good in that lower acidic environment too. They seem to really thrive with no nutrients, which is awfully weird. But once again, as the pitcher plants have adapted to some of our different environments, it works the same way. Do we have any other questions, additional thoughts?
So you say your drainage, so have you actually got like French drains or something on the outside so it, even in heavy rains, it just goes ahead and pours out, or?
Yeah, even in the heaviest rain, it'll wash up right around everything. Yeah.
It's like French, but so you got like French drains along the edges?
No, we just have the borders cut high enough where it's just, no matter how much rain we're gonna get, it's really just gonna run right around everything.
But don't you get a lot of rain sitting in here? Like if you got 2 inches of rain.
We have a drainage right behind you. So everything gets drained this way.
Okay.
And there's a liner underneath here as well, like we were talking about. And that's going to be drained straight out this way. So it's never really going to fill up past where we're at. We're just going to keep that lower level saturated. And with things like looking at how it dries down a little bit, that's actually pretty normal. Bogs will wane and wax throughout the season, and the plants can tolerate it a lot more. A lot of people think two things that are very misconception with especially pitcher plants and fly traps, that they are completely tropical. I hear that all the time. Oh yes, it's because it's such a bizarre species. They really think that, oh my God, it's got to come from the jungle somewhere. No, not really. You're dealing with a lot more of a native North and South Carolina plant with a lot of these species. And the other thing is, everybody feels that they need to overwinter them in a house. They want to bring them inside. They want to put them in the garage. It's the farthest thing from it. I had all of our containers here that we make up were frozen in solid blocks of ice, and they overwintered for probably 3 to 4 weeks in that block of ice. Perfectly fine, perfectly healthy. So it's definitely a misconception that they cannot take that cold, and they really want more of that cold chill to really perennialize. A lot of times, if they don't get that cold chill, especially fly traps, if you ever tried growing them indoors, you're never gonna make it. You actually need to put them in the refrigerator for at least 3 months.
I bet that's always been having problems.
Yep. So that's a big one. But once again, I recommend leaving them outside as bright as you can get. They really need probably at least 7 to 8 hours of direct sunlight. Unfortunately, when I moved, my squirrels ripped mine up, so I had to put it on my deck, and I just don't have enough light, so I had to give up on fly traps, going forward. But I have a pitcher plants will live, my other plants will live, but once again, fly traps are a very, very finicky kind of plant. Any other questions? Okay, well, I appreciate everybody coming out today, taking a little tour, especially all of you for your first time being here. Walk through the gardens. We do have our sales area open. Once again, I do have some container displays set up in our sales area, and we do it for education as well as showing people what to really put together and how you're going to make them survive year over year, as opposed to just having an expensive annual. So if you guys want to come check that out, that would be an additional thought too. If you're trying to build a container on your own, it doesn't matter if it's large, it doesn't matter if it's small, it just needs to make sure that you have the conditions correct. Okay.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.